You've probably been here before. That quiet frustration where nothing's really wrong, but nothing's really moving either. You're doing the routines, showing up, maybe even trying to be more disciplined. But deep down, there's this weird tension, like something invisible is holding you in place. And no matter how hard you try to break through, it's just not working. And here's the twist. It's not because you're lazy or broken or missing some secret habit. You're stuck because you keep trying to solve an internal problem with external effort. And the more you push, the heavier it feels. That's the trap most people fall into. Watch more productivity content, force themselves into new routines, but nothing really shifts because the issue isn't out there. It's in how they're holding on to control, to certainty, to the version of themselves they think they have to be. And unless that part changes, nothing changes. So what does being stuck actually feel like? It's not always loud. It's not always some breakdown or rock bottom moment. Most of the time, it's quiet, it's subtle, and it hides behind what looks like progress. You wake up, do the same things. You tell yourself you're working on it, your goals, your mindset, your future. But deep down, nothing feels different. You feel like you're moving, but you're not really getting anywhere. And here's what's really going on. You're spending more time managing your thoughts than actually living. You're caught in a loop, replaying the same internal conversations, defending the same story, protecting the same fear. And every day, that loop becomes more comfortable than change. And that's what keeps people stuck. Not a lack of tools, not a lack of motivation, but the belief that they have to feel ready before they move, that some magic switch will flip, and suddenly, it'll be time. But here's the truth. No one likes to hear. Change doesn't wait for you to be ready. It shows up when you're tired of your own excuses. And I don't mean that in a harsh way. I mean that the version of you who's ready to evolve, they're not waiting for perfect clarity. They're just waiting for you to stop giving your energy to what already expired. Because staying stuck isn't just about fear. It's about identity. You've become so used to feeling uncertain, overthinking, doubting yourself, that peace feels unfamiliar. And that unfamiliarity, it tricks your brain into thinking it's unsafe. So you go back to the loop, to the struggle you already know. But what if the reason you're still stuck is because a part of you believes struggle is safer than change? Let's talk about the stories we tell ourselves, the silent scripts playing in the background of our minds. You see, being stuck often isn't about external circumstances. It's about the internal narratives we've come to believe as truths. Maybe it's the belief that you're not good enough, that success is for others, not for you. Or perhaps it's the fear that if you try and fail, it will confirm your deepest insecurities. These stories are powerful. They've been shaped by past experiences, by words spoken to us, by moments of pain and disappointment, and over time, they've become the lens through which we view the world and ourselves. But here's the thing. These narratives aren't facts. They're interpretations, and interpretations can change. Recognizing the stories you've been telling yourself is the first step toward rewriting them. It's about becoming aware of the internal dialogue and questioning its validity. Ask yourself, is this belief serving me? Is it helping me grow? Or is it keeping me confined? Because once you start to challenge these narratives, you begin to see possibilities where there were once only limitations. You realize that you have the power to author a new story, one where you're capable, worthy, and free to pursue the life you desire. And that realization, it's the beginning of true transformation. Now here's the turning point. Once you become aware of the story that's been running the show, you don't fix it by shouting over it. You don't bulldoze it with affirmations or hustle harder to prove it wrong. You disrupt it, gently, with one move that breaks the rhythm. Something small, something doable, something different. It's called a pattern interrupt. And it's the first real shift from stuck to unstuck. Let me explain. Most people think they need a breakthrough, something big, dramatic, life-changing, but what they actually need is a moment, a single moment where they choose differently than they usually do. You feel the familiar voice coming up. That won't work. You're not ready. What if you mess up? But instead of arguing with it, you move anyway. Not because you're fearless, but because you've realized the fear isn't a wall. It's a doorway. That moment, that's the beginning of forward motion. Maybe it's sending the message you've been avoiding. Maybe it's waking up 30 minutes earlier to sit in silence. Maybe it's deleting the app that's been draining your focus. Whatever it is, it's something that interrupts the usual. Because until that interruption happens, the old system keeps running. The old beliefs stay fed. The old version of you stays in control. But when you start building evidence, when you take action without waiting to feel ready, your brain starts to update its programming. You're no longer the person who always overthinks and stalls. You're becoming the person who notices the hesitation and moves anyway. And here's what's wild. You don't need to believe in yourself yet. You just need to move once, then again, then again. And before you know it, the story that used to keep you stuck, it doesn't hit the same anymore. Because the truth is louder. You've proven to yourself, I can choose differently now. Here's something no one really tells you. Progress doesn't feel like motivation. It feels like discomfort. Not the kind that drains you, but the kind that whispers, you're finally doing something different. Because when you've been stuck for a long time, moving forward won't feel like flying. At first it feels like friction. Like sitting alone without distracting yourself. Like saying no to things you used to chase for validation. Like trying something you're not good at and staying with it. It feels unfamiliar. And unfamiliar is what your nervous system often reads as danger. So what happens? You start second guessing. You say, this feels wrong, or maybe I'm not ready. But really, it just feels new. And that's where most people backtrack. They assume progress should feel smooth, aligned, inspiring, but forget that breaking out of an old identity is supposed to feel awkward. Think about it. You've spent years building reflexes to survive, not grow. You've trained yourself to expect disappointment, overthink decisions, and avoid being seen. So when you start doing the opposite, even if it's healthier, your body resists, but that resistance isn't a sign to stop. It's proof that you're shifting something real, because you don't break loops in your head. You break them through movement, through new habits, new conversations, new environments, and most importantly, new decisions. And when those new decisions stack up, you start noticing things. You're less reactive. You recover from setbacks faster. You stop spiraling as deep. You start feeling lighter, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. And that's the moment you realize you were never stuck because something was wrong with you. You were stuck because you believed the old version of you was the only one that could survive. But now, you're not surviving. You're starting to live. There's a strange space that nobody prepares you for. It's the space between who you used to be and who you're not quite yet. You're not stuck anymore. Not really. But you're not exactly free either. You're somewhere in between. And that space, it's silent, uncomfortable, and incredibly important, because right here, you're shedding the identity that once protected you. The one that was built on fear, survival, overthinking, all those coping patterns that kept you safe when you didn't know better. But now, you do know better. And this middle ground, it's like emotional rehab. Your mind keeps offering you the old ways. Overthink that. Play it safe. Don't try. Just scroll, distract, repeat. But part of you, a deeper part, isn't buying it anymore. It hears the noise, but it doesn't grab the bait. That's growth. Not flashy, not loud, but powerful in the quietest way possible. You'll start noticing how certain people drain your energy faster than they used to, how old habits feel heavier, how the things you used to chase don't sparkle like they used to. It's not depression. It's not regression. It's disidentification. You're no longer emotionally attached to your former self, but you haven't fully stepped into the next version either. And that limbo, that's where people panic. They say, I feel lost, but what they're really feeling is unanchored. Unanchored from the old story, unanchored from the roles they used to perform, unanchored from the internal chaos that once felt like home. And it's disorienting, I won't lie, because when your identity is shifting, you start asking different questions. Not, what do I want? But what still fits? What thoughts still serve me? What habits still align? What relationships still feel safe? And maybe the most important one, what version of me am I done negotiating with? Because that's where real momentum begins. Not from more answers, but from asking better questions. Even when you start growing, there's a pull, a slow, invisible tug back toward the old version of you. It doesn't shout, it whispers. Wasn't it easier before? At least you knew how to numb the pain back then. You weren't happy, but you were comfortable. And that's the trap. Comfort isn't clarity. Familiarity isn't peace. And slipping back doesn't mean you failed. It means the old identity is negotiating with you one last time. It's offering safety in exchange for stagnation. And if you're not grounded in the why behind your growth, you'll say yes without realizing it. That's why people repeat patterns for years. They go through cycles of motivation and burnout, awareness and avoidance, because they never fully grieve the part of themselves they're leaving behind. Yes, grieve. Letting go isn't just about moving on. It's about honoring what that version of you was trying to do. It was protecting you. It was surviving. It got you through things no one else even knows about. So don't shame it. Don't try to erase it. Just thank it and keep walking. You don't have to fix the past version of you. You just have to stop feeding it. And that starts with creating moments that anchor you to where you're going, not where you've been. So if you find yourself slipping back, ask, what am I running from? And more importantly, what version of me is doing the running? Because when you trace it back to the story, you can stop performing it. You can rewrite it. And every time you do, you break the loop again. Even if it's messy, even if it's slow, you're not stuck. You're just returning to yourself. Without the parts that were never really you. Real change is boring. Not always. Not when you have the breakthrough moments, or the flood of clarity, or the emotional relief that hits out of nowhere. But most days, it's repetitive, quiet, underwhelming. It looks like saying no to the same distraction for the 5th day in a row, like sitting in silence when your brain's begging for noise, like walking away from an argument you could have won, just because your peace finally matters more. No one's clapping, no one's watching, and your life doesn't look radically different yet. But deep down, you know something's shifting. You're not reacting the same way you used to. You're not falling into the same spiral. You're not performing your growth for approval anymore. You're actually living it. And that's powerful, because real growth isn't something you announce. It's something you embody. You don't need to post it. You don't need to prove it. You don't even need to feel proud of it every day. You just need to keep doing it, quietly, consistently, imperfectly. Letting change be boring is one of the most radical things you can do in a world obsessed with instant validation. Because while everyone else is chasing the next high, you're choosing depth. You're choosing patience. You're choosing integration. That's where the real freedom begins. Not when people finally see your growth, but when you no longer need them to. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, you're doing this for you. Not for applause, not for control, but because you're done dragging your soul through patterns you've outgrown. And in that quiet choice, you just became unstoppable. There comes a moment, quiet, unremarkable even, where something inside you just says, enough. Not in anger, not in panic, but in the soft, grounded tone of someone who's finally done bargaining with their own potential. It's not dramatic. It's not about burning everything down or starting over. It's just real. This version of you, the one watching this right now, they're not here by accident. You didn't click this video because you're broken. You clicked because something in you knows. You've outgrown the cage you built to survive. And yeah, letting go of who you've been is uncomfortable. But dragging that version of you into the future, that's even heavier. You don't need another perfect plan. You need space. You need stillness. You need to stop negotiating with your old limitations. So here's the invitation. Don't just watch this video and nod. Don't just agree with it in your head. Pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do today that my future self will thank me for? Maybe it's turning off your phone for an hour. Maybe it's journaling honestly for once. Maybe it's finally saying no to that habit, that person, that version of you. You don't have to figure out the rest. Just do the next thing that feels honest. Because once you move from truth, the momentum takes care of itself. And if this message landed with you, comment, ready. One word, no explanation. Not for me, for you. For the part of you that's ready to stop circling the same loop. And if you ever need a reminder, this space will always be here. Not to tell you who to become, but to help you remember who you already are. I appreciate you being here. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.